Welcome to the last in the current season of the Unintentional Podcast. We'll be back next year. Really appreciate everyone tuning in and listening and feeding back. Today's podcast is with Brightonian, honorary Bristolian, part founding member of the breakbeat genre, desert dweller, founding member of the Californian supergroup The Acid, Mr. Adam Freeland, in which we discuss walking away from a lucrative DJ and production career to go and live in the Mojave Desert. Really appreciate you tuning in. Spent a fantastic few months doing these actually, and look forward to doing some more next year. Have a good one. Bye. Mr. Freeland.
Howdy.
How are you?
I get some video. Hi.
All right, mate.
All right.
How are you?
Good. I'm fantastic actually. It is a glorious day here. It's just
You look well, mate, and happy.
I am both of those things. Let me just grab a glass of water.
Yeah.
Hey, there's this wind chime thing I've got going on here.
I can't hear it.
Okay. If you hear it, I can take it down, disable it.
No, that's fine. I genuinely can't hear it actually.
But
I'm pointing my good ear at the laptop. Can't hear anything. It's fine.
Okay. How you doing?
All right. I'm all right. I'm looking at you slightly enviously over in Joshua Tree. I'm sat here with a hot water bottle.
Oh, fuck.
Underneath my hoodie. Very well, thank you. So you are in Joshua Tree, and I think probably like most people of my age, I first heard of Joshua Tree off the U2 album, and then it took me about another 10 years to realise it was an actual place. I hadn't.
Yes, same.
Yeah.
So I'm actually technically not in Joshua Tree. I say it's Joshua Tree because people have heard of that, but I'm about 45 minutes. If you drew a line from Joshua Tree to the top of Big Bear Mountain,
yeah,
I'm up. Technically, I'm in Pioneer Town.
Okay.
In a place called Pipes Canyon.
Wow.
And it's sort of it's a bit higher up. It's high desert, so I'm at like 4,700 feet. It's about 10 degrees colder than Joshua Tree and about 20 degrees colder than Palm Springs, which is great in the summer and not so great in the winter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it gets properly cold here, actually. But right now, it's glorious.
And the place you're living in, you've essentially sort of built yourself. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, I basically live outdoors. I bought some land 8 years ago and pretty clueless about what I was getting into. And
in the best way.
I'll show you. I reversed this trailer, as they call them here, caravan, as we say in England. I reversed that down behind a car from LA in a snowstorm, put it there, and then I've sort of it just turned out to be a really good spot, and then I've never moved it since.
It looks amazing.
So I'm just sort of nestled. It's a little nook. Most of the land is boulders, so I'm sort of nestled in this little nook here.
Wow.
And yeah, it's I haven't built a house yet. The plan was to build in the first 2 years, but one thing, it's much more of a grand undertaking. I was completely naive. And I'm totally off grid, so I've slowly figured out how to do solar, and now I've got a well, and first 2 years I didn't even have internet. I had to eke a text out from the top of that boulder pile up there. I literally had to climb up and send a little green SMS out. And I could talk about it all day, but it's been a real adventure. I love it. I'm completely in love with the experience. It's been really hard and extreme, but
yeah,
it's been very rewarding as well.
What a phenomenal thing. It's amazing. What an undertaking, mate.
If I had known, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have got into it, but I'm so glad I did. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's living off grid is not easy.
No.
Especially not living outdoors is not easy. I'm mostly outdoors. Occasionally, when it's really cold, I go inside my trailer.
Yeah.
But I've got an outdoor kitchen and I sleep outside. And
Wow.
the big thing here at the moment is I've got this other trailer, a 40-foot long, like an old aluminium Airstream thing. It's called a Spartan. It's like an Airstream, but I've got it cantilevered off a boulder pile, which has been something I've been dreaming about since. Yeah, I'm building a recording studio, and I put it there because it overhangs this canyon, and the acoustics are insane in this canyon. And so I'll sort of be like this sort of control bridge over the canyon, and I'll be able to have speakers on the front of the trailer and send sound out into this big wall of rock, like it's a 100-foot wall of, and the slap back is really nice. It's going through the reverb's going through a whole canyon, and
amazing.
We'll see what that births.
Yes.
Yeah.
Quite the effect. I don't know how you're running. How are you running your Wi-Fi then?
It's a miracle that it works, but it's it looks like a satellite dish, but it's a long-range microwave link.
Okay.
And it's on top of that boulder pile over there, and that looks down over 5 miles towards the town, basically. I mean, the nearest civilization is a line of sight. It basically is it's a sort of directed Wi-Fi beam that works over long distances.
Okay.
But there's a couple of links in between that are all solar powered, and I've been having problems last week because someone keeps pinching the batteries and solar panels at a point further down the canyon. But it's generally pretty good. But literally there's 3 sets of batteries and solar panels before it gets to me. So the fact it works, and we're doing a Zoom call, and obviously the power I'm running here is from my own solar.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that is phenomenal.
Yeah,
it's phenomenal.
Although I'm quite excited for the Starlink, which might come around this way.
Okay.
Soon. You know, the Elon Musk's.
Yeah. Loosely,
satellite.
yeah.
We were actually watching a movie out in the desert a few months back, and there was like an outdoor cinema in Pioneer Town, and all these bright lights started going over, looked like UFOs, like quite low level, really bright. There's like 10 of them in a row, and we were like, what? We were all convinced that we were witnessing a UFO experience. And then there was a pause, and there was like I counted 74 of them, just bright lights zooming across the sky in a train. Anyway, it turns out that we witnessed the launch of those satellites.
Oh, wow.
The reason they were bright is it was just after sunset, so like the sun still catches them from underneath.
Yeah.
It was pretty amazing. For a moment, I was really quite excited that we'd had a proper.
I thought a UFO experience would be the one thing you're missing. I thought you've had everything else.
Well, I've got a few stories, but that would have been like really conclusive. But then it was Elon Musk.
Yeah. I love how you're kind of living the life I thought I'd be living about 30 years ago.
I never thought I'd end up in the desert.
No.
I thought I'd end up somewhere sort of tropical with a surf break at the end of my mango tree yard.
Yeah.
But here we are.
I love the desert, and the few times I've been there, down sort of Desert Hot Springs and Joshua Tree and that kind of thing, it's blown my mind. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
And you get a quite similar feel, you know, if you go to the moors or something around here, just that flat, slightly alien isolation, where nothing looks particularly friendly, but not particularly threatening either. And you kind of just get sucked up into the whole feel of it.
There's something amazing about, for me, very compelling. I realize it's not for everybody. Some people it scares, but when you can see no evidence of other humans and you can be completely just with yourself, I find that, like, I've had my peak life experiences in those kind of situations.
Yeah.
I've realized from people who come here, like some people are just being that far away from things freaks people out. But then there's this yearning to go deeper. You know what I mean? Like once you go out there, it's like, wow, you know, it's quite easily you could see how you could go like into the wild style.
Yeah.
You know, there's always this yearning to just go a bit further away from civilization. But it's pretty good. I'm 5 miles down a dirt road right at the end, and I border the wilderness, so I could walk for 2 weeks from here and not see anybody.
That's incredible.
Yeah. But then like 20 minutes away, got like Pappy and Harriet's and see like world-class bands. It's quite an unusual balance of things.
That's a great balance. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great balance.
Like, where do you go from Bristol?
What, for that kind of experience?
You said you were going to the moors just outside.
Well, it's to Dartmoor and Exmoor and stuff, but also kind of North Wales, that kind of thing. A lot of these spaces are really popular now since the whole COVID lockdown thing, and everyone's kind of discovering stuff at home. But I'm a big fan of Wales for that kind of thing. And I used to love Dartmoor. I've been there for a while. Exmoor can be amazing.
It's a beautiful island.
It is a beautiful island. The weather's against you 4-5 months of the year, just the darkness and stuff. But and I was in Iceland a couple of weeks ago, and that has a sort of similar effect, of course. And it's funny how we yearn for company, but we also yearn to be safe in that company, to be able to leave it, but kind of know it will still be there if we ever want to come back again, you know. And that's the perfect balance, I guess.
I found it hard to get the balance. Like, I love being around great people, and I love inviting people here. But quite quickly, like, it's just non-stop people here, and like getting that balance right of having your own personal space. And like it's a push-pull thing, you know, like I really want to be alone, but then I really love being around people, and getting that balance right.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
I put stronger barriers up around when I host people now, so I'm like I'm a bit more clear with it.
Yeah, I guess you'd need to be, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Well, everyone thinks you're like, what are you doing out there? You must be lonely. It's like, no, I'm trying to be.
Must be so much to do, really. And just I've got an aunt who's got a bit of land in the south of France that she bought. She's in her 80s. She bought it about 40 years ago. And it's just at the foothills of the Mont Ventoux. And there's a tiny little horse stable. And that's what she lives in. And she's converted that. And it's basically exactly the same thing. There's no electricity, some solar panels, compost toilet, big sack in a tree that collects all the rainwater and heats it up in the sun so she can shower. And when you go there with her, you spend most of the day just living, just kind of preparing food, finding food, you know, cleaning this, wiping that, emptying this, checking that fence, you know, that kind of thing. And actually that's your life is, you know, you realize how much of that's been taken away through modern living, just the dealing with the mechanics of staying alive and making sure your place is up to scratch.
That's been, yeah. I mean, that's why I haven't got that much music done in the last few years.
No.
It's a full-time job living like this.
Yeah.
But I feel like once this studio is in place, I've got the clear vision now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot to do. I'm glad you came in for this chat.
Completely self.
There you are. You frozen briefly.
Okay. Where were we?
It's fine. Well, I mean, thanks for joining me. I mean, this podcast, hence the title, wasn't really something I set out to do, but it's kind of evolving and happening. And I figured that at the end of the season, I needed a special guest, and that special guest is you. And of course, you're the non-Bristolian ultimately. But when we met a couple of weeks ago, you told me your grandparents came from Nailsea.
My parents, I mean, I'm spiritually Brizzle.
There you go. That's a connection.
My mum is from Nailsea and my dad's from Clevedon.
Right.
And both my grandparents all my grandparents lived in Bristol as a kid. So we'd go there a lot.
Oh, right. Okay.
So
Nice.
I do, so I have a strong connection with Bristol.
Yeah. That's nice. I mean, the Bristol thing isn't really part of this podcast. It's just the way it's evolved, because I needed to speak to people I knew really well to begin with, and it kind of just evolved into early episodes about old school Bristol. But this doesn't need to be that at all. It doesn't need to be old school anything. It doesn't need to be Bristol anything really. And God knows I'm not a journalist. I'm not here to interview you. It's just.
Well, I heard your conversation with Crust and I loved it. And I'm a big fan of Crust as an artist and as a human. We've ended up spending quite a bit of time.
Oh, great.
Together over the years, just
Oh,
on
nice.
the road. But I haven't seen him in ages. But anyway, it was really nice to just hear his story.
Yeah, definitely. And I didn't know it quite as well, especially the early days of it. But by the time Represent happened, obviously I knew it. But yeah, it was the sort of Fresh Fall thing. I sort of saw it from the outside, but didn't really know that much about it. But I guess you will always be tagged with Brighton ultimately, won't you?
Yeah, I mean, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, the label Marine Parade was named after the street I lived on.
Yeah. Yeah. And I heard rumors that you're thinking of relaunching. Is that right?
I'm really excited about the sort of broken beat, breakbeat based music that's out there at the moment. There's so much good stuff. And I haven't felt like that in a long time. I'm really excited about dance floor music again.
Great.
And so I'm definitely relaunching, whether it's as Marine Parade or whether I call it something about relevant to this chapter I'm living now.
Yeah.
Might be more, feels like, anyway, I'm going to make that decision shortly, but either way, whatever it's called, I'm busy gathering music and finding artists.
Wow.
Making some myself. Yeah.
I mean, what I've always admired about you in that field is the way that you were so persistent and tenacious in creating, inventing a scene, and then kind of at its peak, you sort of walked away from it, not wanting to be defined by that, and then went away and did some other bits and moved in different directions. And, I've always thought from an artistic perspective, that was exactly the right thing to do.
It was. I'm glad you think that. But in retrospect, it was.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, the acid wouldn't have happened. The desert wouldn't have happened. I think it, as an artistic person, beyond it, I felt boxed in, and was totally in my head, but also just best part of 20 years of touring non-stop. I was like, I need to, if I'm to do any of my sort of life goals that I had imagined, I can't be living on airplanes and hotels anymore. I need to stop, not just, and so I did.
Yeah. No, absolutely the right thing, I think.
Yeah. And now, funnily, I never thought I thought I did that, got the t-shirt, did the DJ thing. And it was really nice with the acid to be able to just occupy a different realm, like we're playing shows at 8-9 p.m. and you play for an hour and then everyone claps and goes home and you go to bed. It's a totally different experience to flying around the planet and DJing at 4 a.m.
Yes.
to a bunch of people really high.
Yeah.
And it was really great, you know. I mean, it is really great. So just, but now I'm actually quite excited about doing some DJing again. Not the way I used to do it, but just there's so much good music. I'm like, I got to play this stuff. That's it.
Yeah.
It feels really nice to just come from excitement. I don't really quite know how I'm gonna go from here to like doing that, but it'll transpire.
Yeah, it'll work out.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've never reached the levels you did in terms of DJing, but I stopped DJing for very similar reasons, because when you start, you just get really excited about music and you want to play it all, or you want to make your mark, or there's a certain sound you want to get out that you think isn't being heard. And as you become more successful, you do get boxed in, and actually the broadness, or in my head, is how I felt, and you're probably right, it was in my head. I felt that more and more people were expecting one certain thing from me, and that just kind of made me unhappy. And then there is that kind of hamster wheel of every weekend, and then you lose touch with your friends, lose touch, you know, can't really build any solid relationships with anyone because you're away every weekend, and having to play a very narrow band of music. And I can't listen to one genre of music for more than about 25 minutes without wanting something else to happen. And that was kind of how I wanted to DJ, and probably how I started. And then suddenly you're a thing and people expect that thing, and then you've got to chase with this stuff. You know, I just found it, for me, it just became the dragon that ate itself, or the snake that ate itself in the end, you know.
Yeah, I can completely relate to that. I think it felt like twofold. I thought there's people's expectations. There's also the environment, you know. When I started DJing, you're playing like deep stuff in small venues, and then you get a name for yourself, and there's a demand to go and headline a big festival to thousands of people, and that stuff wouldn't work in that environment, you know. So you kind of, there's this pressure to play like bigger tunes, because you as you should, you're there to entertain people on their Saturday night, and so the environment changes, and so the music you play changes, and then scenes evolve, and then there's different factors at play that sort of completely change why you got into it in the first place. Although I never played music I didn't love, which
No.
I'm proud to say, but I did feel the pressure. Like, there's a certain point in the 2000s when like everything was just getting bigger and harder and faster, and the whole EDM thing happened, and the sort of dynamics, people's attention spans waned, and I felt like I wasn't enjoying so much. Like, I love playing for 3-4 hours and telling a story, and then you're on a festival for an hour, and like the guy before you has just played full guns blazing, and it's like, what are you going to do after that? You know, you know. So this, you know, it sort of became like noise wars, and when it gets ugly.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
But I'm so glad that the scene has evolved so much since then, and there's sort of a much more. You don't have to do that. You don't have to play those, you know. There's much more like boutique festivals, and sound systems have got better, and the productions got better, and there's so many more people making music. And it's just a totally different realm. And I think now with social media as well, you could, you know, I'm excited to just play to some small crowds of people who really love music. I don't care about headlining a festival, you know what I mean? And that feels exciting to me, just playing in a nice environment, probably by day, probably outdoors, to some people that really love music, you know.
Yeah.
And there's no pressure to do anything else. Also, like, the breakbeat thing became like, I didn't like what it became, and I didn't want anything to do with it.
It got quite laddie, didn't it?
Got really laddie, and it just became cheesy. Like it was all like, it was a handful of artists, DJs, that kind of just poured it out, I felt, and it just became also this bootleg pop. Everyone was remixing pop tracks with a breakbeat, and it was awful. I really and didn't want anything to do with that. But again, I shouldn't have really cared. I should have just I don't have any regrets, really. I played the music I loved, and then until I didn't want to, and now I'm in a different place and excited. Yeah. Hey, hold on a sec, Leon.
Yeah.
Matt, are you looking for the flamethrower? It's by the hot tub. No, to your left, by the solar panels. Sorry.
Flamethrower.
Well, it's what do you call those things for like doing welding?
Oh, right,
Like
a blowtorch.
Blowtorch,
Oh,
not
okay.
a flamethrower.
Not an actual flamethrower.
Blowtorch. Yeah. Turns out it's really handy for lighting your hot tub fire.
Oh, okay. You can imagine lighting anything.
Messing around with a match or
yeah, when it's windy.
Just and it's going. You don't be messing around with a Bic in a windstorm.
No.
You need a flamethrower, aka blowtorch.
Yeah.
Well, there was so many great, there's plenty great remixes of pop acts.
Yeah.
I mean, so many, right? But the stuff that was bugging me was just it was bootlegs.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Easy record, a pop record with a breakbeat shoved over it. I think it's sort of the mentality is like, are you a party DJ?
Yeah.
Or are you like someone that enjoys playing an experience to people that want to go on a journey with music? And
yeah,
they're different from different things. And like, but there's this pressure to like, every DJ feels to like rock the party, right? So I can see why it happens, but it takes real discipline to go, no, I'm not going to do that. I know this would make the crowd go nuts, but it's just it's writing that balance, isn't it? Between, I would sort of say DJing is like, it's easy to play really underground, chin stroke, super deep, super classy music to a few dudes that are going to be like train spotting. Go, that's really cool. You're really cool because you played that record. I mean, that's fairly easy to do. It's also fairly easy to play the sort of Beatport top 10, right? So of whatever genre you're into, but the art is obviously giving people enough of familiarity to keep their Saturday night going if they're not a hardcore music nerd, you know what I mean? But also taking it into just start playing that, writing that fine line. And that's really the art form. And I felt that had largely been lost and unappreciated because most of the people coming through weren't DJs, they were producers that became a DJ act.
Yeah.
It's a different skill,
Yeah.
Right. That's how I look at it.
No, I think that's absolutely right. I think we're on the same page there. Definitely. Definitely. Well, I'm looking forward to that. If that rekindles then.
Yeah.
Pioneer Town Records or whatever it's ended up being,
Yeah. I could call it Pipes Canyon because,
Yeah.
Marine Parade. Now it's Pipes Canyon. We'll see.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you're kind of energized by the whole idea.
I've just got so much more energy in my life, like as a human, like as a physical energy. I'm much fitter and stronger, and my mind is much clearer than when I was living that life. So I feel like I'm just got energy for it. I was, it's like, it's so exhausting. I really admire, highly respect the DJs that are still going non-stop from that were my peers in the 90s.
Yeah.
Like, respect. You have to have a pretty amazing constitution to do that non-stop and still enjoy it and still stay edgy and all of the things. It's a lot. It's amazing also, but
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. I didn't have that in the end, certainly. Certainly.
I remember Steve Sato saying, I don't know how you do it. I'm booking your shows and everything, but I don't know how you do it. And I said, well, I'm going to do this until it feels like a job. But one thing that really bugged me was when you'd see, and often you see it, DJ up there getting paid crazy money, and they just look like they're phoning it in.
Yeah.
They're not connecting with the crowd. They're doing their job, but the passion's not there. And that would really, I never wanted to, I can't say I've never been in that experience, because there's sometimes when you're just so jet lagged, you don't even know which way is up. But I never wanted, I think it's really disrespectful. I think it's such a privilege to be able to get paid to play for people and to have influence to people's experience, that it should be taken seriously. And if you're just phoning it in. And it was one afternoon I was just dreading, I was driving to Gatwick from Brighton, and I can't remember where I was supposed to be going, and I was just like, every fiber in me was like, I do not want to do this. Get on the plane, I'm exhausted. And I called Sato and I was like, there's that day coming where I said I'd tell you that it felt like a job. I'm like, today's that day.
We're here.
We're here. Anyway, and he was like, totally, I get it. Okay. No more shows. And that was that. That was 2010. Where are we now? 21.
We're 22, aren't we? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you did try the live act thing for a bit as well, didn't you? I mean, pre-Acid with Freeland.
Yeah, like when We Want Your Soul kicked off, I put after we made that first Freeland album, that was sort of the hit. And then there was this sort of, it sort of made sense to go and perform that as a band, as a live act. And we did a fair bit of touring with it.
Yeah.
In retrospect, I wish I knew more about, I didn't grow up in bands, and I wish I knew more about putting a live show together, because I think we were okay. I don't think we were a brilliant band.
I saw you a few times.
It was okay.
And it was definitely okay. It was more than okay, but it is a different world. And how big you are as a DJ, if you're getting into that world, then you are basically starting from scratch.
You are. It's not the same.
And it's the same when, people in bands want to be DJs, and then it's just, you're starting from scratch. It's the skills involved that you pick up over a decade or whatever, clearly take time, and you can't just roll up and do it. But actually, I remember I definitely saw you once or twice. I thought it was great. And We Want Your Soul, I love. Massive fan of that record, obviously. And when I do DJ, which is very occasionally at sort of people's birthday parties, the a cappella of that still comes out. I love it. It's fantastic.
It's haunted me, that a cappella, because it's out there, and then there's been so many rip-offs of We Want Your Soul, which is good and bad, but the good ones are good and the cheesy ones are not good. Yeah, it's a
good sign that people are still listening to it, and it coincided with probably with yours too, I imagine. It coincided with my massive, deep Bill Hicks phase. Quite coincidentally, I think I kind of did a huge Bill Hicks phase, and then We Want Your Soul came out, and that was sort of
he was such an influence.
Yeah.
An influence.
Yeah.
I was amazed we got clearance actually from his family to do that. But they were really cool.
Good.
Mm.
Good. So there should be. Yeah, interesting character.
I mean, yeah, just the way his rage at the sort of sucking of Satan's cock, as he called it, of like the way the world was going, was so prophetic. You know, he's not one of those comedians that made you laugh. It was more like prophecy, you know.
Yeah. There's a point when he had pancreatic cancer, knew he was dying, and I don't think anyone else knew. And that's the point when his material is so ridiculously dark that I remember, I mean, it just took me a while to even be able to sit down and listen to it once. But like a lot of good things, you then sort of keep coming back to it and sort of try it again and let's try that again. And, you know, yeah, he was very funny, but he was also very, very angry.
And rightly, I mean, look what's
and rightly
happened.
so.
It's like there's very little dissent out there, you know.
But there is, and the problem with the kind of celebrity world in inverted commas is that if they do bring any dissent, it's not really taken seriously anymore.
No.
For whatever reason.
I mean, it's straight up censored. I mean, I follow Adbusters on Instagram. You know, it was Black Friday on last week, and they do like every year they do a Buy Nothing Day.
Yeah.
And I guess they were having some traction this year, and they got pulled off Instagram on Black Friday.
Wow.
And they got reinstated a few days later, but you know, the storm had passed.
Yeah.
It's so deeply, well, I was going to say we could go off.
No, have a go. Go on. May as well.
Yeah, I don't actually know what I'm trying to say.
No.
It'll come to me. It'll come to me. There's so much there.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, corporate corruption is just so ingrained in our life, we don't even see it anymore, I think, maybe is what you're heading towards.
Yeah. And it's almost impossible to avoid. I mean, it's completely impossible.
I think it is impossible to avoid, yeah.
It's impossible.
I mean, living off grid's a good start, I guess.
It's a good start, but, you know, I've had to buy a lot of shit to live off grid.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why
you have to go to your supermarket or whatever. Are you able to grow anything down there, or?
Yeah, well, it's an extreme environment, and I learned that the factors you think might be a problem are not such a problem, but there's little things like mice and rodents have been like the biggest problem, because you're just putting juicy stuff out in the middle of the desert, and it doesn't even last a night. But my lockdown project was I built a greenhouse, and like with raised beds, and it's turned out to be so nice, and it's actually the only properly indoor structure I got on the property, that I sort of repurposed it as I was building it as a vegetable lounge. So it's like a hangout space / growing space.
Amazing.
It's like a nice place you can just hang out and talk to the plants and play piano. Oh
wow.
But again, it's really hard to on your own grow food.
Yeah.
Like people have this idea, it's like, I'm going to stop what I do and buy a bit of land and start a farm. It's like, good luck.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It takes a community, you know, it takes a village.
It absolutely does.
But like, I got pretty paranoid in the first few weeks of when the whole COVID thing, kind of the wave hit, and I was like, okay, prepper mode, you know, like what do I need to do? I started buying like heirloom seeds and, you know, really extra well pumps in case, like, I thought the whole world was going to like shut collapse.
Yeah.
I really thought America was going to go down. I was like, all right, what if I had to survive out here, like what would I do? Like I shot a squirrel with my air rifle and like ate it, skinned it, cooked it, ate
Wow.
it, just so like
Much
I
meat
know
from a
that.
squirrel?
No,
No.
you couldn't live off squirrels. I had to do that to find out.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, okay, what could I live on out here? The reality is, if everything totally shut down, probably couldn't.
No.
But I like the idea of just getting completely self-sustainable anyway.
Yeah, of course.
But I'm a few steps closer thanks to COVID.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I have an allotment, as you may remember, and I had a bumpy year last year. And I haven't around at the time this year, really. But I just, even with the bumpy year, I keep thinking, I'm so glad I haven't got to feed my family with this. Because all you get is like a week of rain too much, or not enough rain, or or something, or this, or blight, and it's just gone. Like 6 months of tinkering away at a vegetable, it just dies before your eyes,
Oh.
And you just imagine what it would have been like for people who did just try and grow food enough to live, and the amount of food you'd need for a family, or just for me myself, just in terms of needs to keep all year. And those skills are,
Have you got into the permaculture world?
No, I just haven't had the time to do anything beyond grow a few vegetables, but I'd love to if I had the time, when I have the time.
I did a permaculture design course earlier this year, and it was I'd say the most rewarding and useful bit of education I've ever had.
Wow.
It was a 2-week intensive with this brilliant guy called Warren Brush, who's like a permaculture guru, who's doing like crazy ambitious projects, like teaching refugee camps in Africa how to grow their own food on like mass scale. Like one of the most effective humans I've ever come across.
Wow.
I learned so much on that. Like, I should have done that when I started living off in the desert, but I didn't know about it. I didn't really know what permaculture was. And there's so much. I mean, you can actually, if you get yourself organized, you can be really effective in growing stuff.
So what does permaculture mean in this instance then? Just being able to...
Well, like horticulture would be like, gardening and maybe growing some veggies, but permaculture, there is probably a term for it. I mean, a sort of a definition, but it's like a whole holistic systems approach. Now they'd kind of, the buzzword would be like a sustainable agriculture.
Right, yeah.
How to optimize. I mean, it's using indigenous wisdom, but in a sort of modern, with a modern lens. So it's like, what do I do with my grey water? Do I just pour it into the desert, or do I use that to water my vegetables? And like, how do I harness the sun? And like, how do I design my house so that it's passive solar, so it heats and cools itself, and I don't need to use propane or whatever to heat my house? It's like simple. Actually, once you get into it, once you go there, it's fairly obvious. But like most houses are made not with these principles in design. So you need, especially here, like they build like a square box in the middle of the desert, and put a really badly insulated and put an air conditioner on the roof and a heater, and like uses so much energy to heat and cool it. Just a bit of simple good design and insulation. House can south-facing window. It's just like a whole systems approach to how we look at it, how we do things. And actually, when you look at the big picture, like one thing that really came out of that course for me is just how we're doing life on Earth. I mean, when you go to Mars, and when you're doing like, they're all using, that's permaculture, like how to do all this stuff, right? But an example that really stuck with me was LA, right? It's a town in a desert with 14 million people. More water lands on LA in rainfall every year than LA uses, right? But all of that water goes in, it's treated as waste, it's treated as a problem, and then it's treated as a threat to property, and then it's channeled into, lands on concrete streets, and it goes into the LA River, which is concrete, and it washes out to sea and causes a load of pollution. Meanwhile, we import river and I forget the name of it now. And we cause a huge amount of upstream problems, like taking water away from where it's needed.
Yeah.
Feed LA, but actually, if LA was, it's not realistic that LA is ever going to completely sustain itself with water, but it's possible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, the idea of sinking the water back into the aquifers rather than shoving it down a concrete river. And they're starting to do it now. They're breaking up the LA River, and they're putting in rocks and slowing the flow and and breaking it up. And they're actually going to build a lake just by downtown LA. And it's just stuff that we didn't think about 100 years ago when you're building a city. And now we're like, oh, right. There's so much, and you kind of go to the way we're doing mass agriculture. It doesn't make sense. No. The only reason it works is because of subsidies on fossil fuels.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense on any level except for big corporations. And it's planting partner plants, and so that you can grow these food forests that have all these plants that have symbiotic relationships with each other, and it's much more efficient use of. It's not just sort of nice thing to do. It's straight up like per square meter of land, you get way more yield for way less input. It's the win on every level.
Yeah.
But regulations and all the lobbies and everything make that really hard to do. But things are going. I mean, I think the whole permaculture movement.
Well, something clearly needs to change, isn't it? So
you just go into YouTube, permaculture.
Yeah, it'll all be out there.
Up. You will go down rabbit holes for weeks.
Yeah, forever.
Like how to do a grey water system. Like how to. That was the most fun part for me. Water in a desert.
Yeah.
And now, until recently, it was illegal to capture water in California from your roof because it was seen as a health and safety problem. Whereas in Australia,
or anything.
What's that?
No water butts. I mean, here everyone has a water butt underneath their guttering, so it catches the water as it goes down, and then you collect the water and you keep it there and use it to water your plants with in the summer. And
that's in a damp ass rainy place. And in California, they wouldn't allow that because it was like health and safety, because bacteria might grow in those water butts.
It's a broad selection of topics we've covered. I love it. I love it.
I got a million rabbit holes we could wax. I'll finish. It's too much to go into, but I did 2 courses this year that really blew my mind, and one was the permaculture design course, and the other was a sense making course with an outfit out of London called Rebel Wisdom. And I got deep into the whole sense making community, and like, how do you make sense of a world where we've been gamed by algorithms and you can't trust any media? And
so I didn't know how we were spelling sense, whether it was
not like perfumes.
No, I did think for a minute it was.
No, I got really into candles and Julie.
Sense, making sense, as in understood.
How do you make sense of the world where you can't just assume you read The Guardian and that you're informed, or Fox News or anything? Your algorithm, your Facebook timeline is just bombarding you with. I feel like I've lost so many friends in the last year to some pretty batshit thought, paranoid conspiracy.
Yeah.
But then actually a lot of that conspiracies turned out maybe it came out of a lab in Wuhan. So it's but I, cause I just got really interested in this world, probably because I have too much time alone thinking about. I think we're all interested in it, but it's a really interesting moment in history of like. I got really inspired by this guy called Daniel Schmachtenberger.
Okay.
Who's become like a guru, really, really clever bloke. But I could rant about that, but
yeah, well, I'll look him up. It's exactly the sort of thing I
wanted,
need.
If there's on the Rebel Wisdom YouTube channel, there's like a bunch of sort of sense-making interviews with Daniel Schmachtenberger that I will check them out. Really were a real deep schooling, and he continues to be like a wickedly powerful inspiration and mind. Yeah.
We all need inspiring people.
We can talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all need inspiring people around us.
There's brilliant minds out there.
Yeah, and it's bizarrely in the age of communication, they're not easily, it's not like they're being rammed down your throat, these brilliant minds. You have to go and find them. Whereas you would think that in the age of mass communication, those brilliant minds would be, on our airwaves all the time. Maybe they are there, maybe I haven't noticed them, but it seems to me that the lowest common denominator is pushed first.
Well, that's it. I mean, that's the whole point. Yeah. It's the algorithms are just feeding you what you're, feeding you more of what you've already chosen. So we're all wandering around thinking we're informed about the world, but we're all completely deluded in our bubbles.
Yeah.
And it's not like before everyone would sit down and watch the news and get like everyone's getting their own news, which is radically different from everyone else's news. And so we wonder why there's such polarization.
Yeah.
And we see it here, like so many friends like don't talk to their parents anymore because they like voted Trump, and people are so polarized and so clear, so sure that they're right.
Yeah. Which is a dangerous position for anyone to be in, irrespective of what they believe.
Yeah, we all think we're kind of closer to the truth than those other people that don't know.
Yeah.
But no, probably not.
No.
Probably not.
And I think if you surround yourself with people who believe the same thing as you, it just stunts you intellectually, doesn't it? In the end, you have to be with people who have a different opinion in order for you to be able to debate that opinion. But even that idea of debate doesn't seem to be. No, it's just shouting.
I'm ranting now.
Yeah, I don't think you are. I think it's fascinating, genuinely. And it's a great way to end the season.
Yeah.
And it's been brilliant seeing you and chatting to you again. We didn't really get the chance to hang out last time we saw each other. You were DJing, in fact.
It's funny to get to have a proper chat.
Yeah.
Like this, because we only ever release each other in nightclubs.
Yeah, and they're not great places for chats, nightclubs.
They're not.
Quite the opposite, in fact. I like the idea of nice daytime festivals. I look forward to seeing you play at some point again.
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll be doing some more. We kind of pretty far down the line with the acid record.
Yeah.
We just need to get in the same room.
Yeah.
Finish it, and then
yeah, I look forward to working that with you.
That, and then some dance floor music.
Excellent. Excellent. Thanks for joining me, Ad.
Good to see you, man.
Bloody lovely to see you, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do it in real life sometime.
Yeah, let's do it in real life. I hope you have a fantastic solstice / Christmas / whichever bit of the turning of the seasons you celebrate.
I go with the solstice one. Makes sense to me. It's actually something real.
Yeah.
The concept. Yeah, likewise.
Yeah, and I'll see you real soon. Thank you very much for being here.
It's my pleasure. Great to see you.
Thanks, Ad.
Lots of love. See ya.
All the best.
Ciao for now.
definitely.
Talking of ciao for now,
Yeah.
have you seen Bob Mortimer's Instagram?
I haven't actually. Should I?
I've literally spent this morning in stitches about he's got this guy called Train Guy, and he's like playing this total city boy rah who would be really obnoxious on the phone on a train. It's fucking brilliant. I haven't laughed that hard out loud alone for a long time. So abstract and so good. I'll give you that one.
I'm going to have a little look at that now then. All right, brilliant.
Yeah. Ciao for now, yeah.
Ciao for now.
Ciao, 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 ciao. Bye.